Is this going to be a winner Connected Joe JoeTisserie chicken dinner? Oh gosh, that's a mouthful. We'll find out. The JoeTisserie accessory is one of my all-time favorite accessories for the Kamado Joe, or any Kamado for that matter, since it can be used on things like the big green egg, because there is just something about cooking over live fire. You get some of those fat rendering, dripping, interacting with the live coals. It just imparts a world of flavor. So you can imagine my disappointment when something like the Pellet Joe came out and some of my favorite accessories like the slow roller, 3-tier divide and conquer rack, or the JoeTisserie weren't compatible. All of those issues are solved on the Connected Joe. I've already proven that the slow roller works and turns out an amazing meal. And so today I'm on a mission to find out if the JoeTisserie is up to the same great goodness inside of the Kamado Joe Konnected Joe. Let me take you back just a couple minutes earlier, show you how it sets up a little bit different on the Konnected Joe, as well as how I prepped our chicken for today's cook. And I'll rejoin you a little bit later on for some more updates and most importantly, our taste test. Okay, let's clean out our Konnected Joe. First, we're gonna remove the slow roller, which is what I tested last time. It did a really good job, so I'll get out the raised divide and conquer rack. Slow roller extender and base. Now, normally what I would do is bank all of our coals towards the back, but since we're gonna be using the automatic fire starter, if I bank them all to the back, there won't be charcoal making contact with more than half of the ring. So I'm just gonna get rid of the ash that we have here, knock that around. I'll take a fast forward while we do that, and we'll add some fresh coal. That looks good. I take my time to try and push all that ash down. We'll pull it out in a second, just because if I do use the fan, I find that compressed air will blow some of that ash back up into our food, and I don't want that sticking to the outside of our chicken. So that's why I've taken the extra time to try and force all that ash down into the collector. Let's add some fuel. Clean out the bottom. So we should have a full collector of ash now that we pushed all that down that we can dump into the garbage. See if we can get any extra. 2 or 3 passes, it feels good. Close that up. Power, hit the automatic fire starter. Now, every cook up to this point on the Konnected Joe, I followed the same pattern of using the automatic fire starter and then turning on the fan. But speaking of patterns, I've seen a reoccurring theme where when I do this, I significantly overshoot the temperatures. And then on a lower, slower cook where we go for a long time, that fan eventually brings the temperature back to what I want and it's held nice flat lines. So I don't think this is a temperature control algorithm problem. It might just be a little bit too much time for a low and slow cook. And I don't want to start off on my JoeTisserie chicken with too high of a temperature. If I do that, I'm gonna get amazing looking skin on the outside and a lovely medium rare chicken on the inside, which none of us are going to want to eat. So I really do not want to go past that 300-degree max Fahrenheit temperature for starting this JoeTisserie chicken. So I'm gonna give this a try just using the automatic fire starter. I've opened the top vent just so that air can get out, but I'm not gonna turn the fan on till later. Let's go over to the kitchen and prep our bird. All right, we've got our bird all ready to go. I'm gonna be using, I'm a big fan, if you can, particularly with poultry, dry brine it. It'll help the skin dry out, but this is fresh from the grocery store for dinner. And I would normally make my own rub, but some of the ones that I bought are starting to clump up, and even though I'm giving this a shake, it's not breaking apart, and so I want to use this up just before it turns into some solid mass. So that's what I'm going with today. So unlike normal, I'm actually going to apply the rub after we get this on the JoeTisserie, since you just lose some of that in the process. So to get everything ready, I've got my 2 forks, I've just got a knife to trim up the string, some butcher's twine so we can truss up anything that will be flopping around, and I've also got a meter probe. And so while the Konnected Joe comes with an integrated meat monitoring probe, it's hardwired, and that's not going to work in the JoeTisserie. So we need to stick with something like the meter if we want to track our food. So I'll take you fast forward while we get our bird prepped onto the JoeTisserie spit, seasoned up and trussed and ready to go. Grab a meter probe, and I like to go right in the front side of the breast, follow that along so I don't hit the rib cage, right past that line. Looks good. Let's go get it on the pit. So it looks like we've come up to about 314 before turning the fans on. So just to slow that down while we're installing our JoeTisserie, I'm going to close the control tower top a little bit. So I was just getting ready to install the JoeTisserie, and I spotted a small little hiccup that we have to overcome. Out in the backyard using an extension cord, I have one outlet which is being occupied by the Konnected Joe itself. Perhaps maybe in a future version, that would be an amazing seeing around corners moment, is to have an outlet in the Konnected Joe itself that you could plug the JoeTisserie in without needing a power bar. So I'm gonna go look for a power bar so I can power both the Konnected Joe and the JoeTisserie. Rejoin you in a second when I've got both, and we'll install it and set it up for our chicken. Start, I'm gonna rake our coals towards the back. Drop in our JoeTisserie ring, motor, and I've not done this on my classic JoeTisserie, but I do recommend making a bit of a notch in your JoeTisserie so that you don't have to guess where center is and do what I'm doing now, and slide our bird to center. So find approximate center, tighten that back up. You can do that with a hacksaw or anything, or even a marker or something like that, but a hacksaw will last a little bit longer. JoeTisserie power, we're cooking. All right, according to the meter, we're nearly about 10 minutes away, so let's come take a look. But speaking of the meter, it did help me notice a couple things going on in terms of the digital display versus the actual temperature gauge on the front of our dome and what I was seeing on the meter probe, which is, again, stayed a little bit more closely aligned to the dome temperature. And so since the Konnected Joe and the Pellet Joe, the digital sensor is at the back of the grill where I have all of our coal stacked. There's nothing out front. It's obviously reading a little bit hotter. So it actually did a nice job leveling out the line for a flat line. That was just about 65 degrees cooler than what we want. So to help compensate for how I like to use the JoeTisserie and having the coal raked to the back to make sure that we're getting some radiant heat, good convection, but not necessarily direct over the fire the entire time so we don't overdo our skin. I did make that adjustment and bump the temperature up. So I think I now have it set at about 460 degrees on the digital display, and it's reading 481. And I am looking at about 375 on the dome. So that's, I'm perfectly happy with. Again, that 300, 350 degrees is what I would do if I was doing it absolutely manual. So that's the only adjustment that I made, but let's take a look and see how the skin is crisping up. On the Series 1, Series 2, like what the Konnected Joe is based on, we are about 4 inches closer to the fire than what I am on my Series 3. And so on my Series 3, I like to go for Inferno mode, open the dome, and just let the flames fly. Sometimes we don't need that on my Series 1, and I don't know what the entropy here on the Konnected Joe based on Series 2. So let's take a look and see if we need to crisp up the skin by letting those flames fly directly underneath. All right, let's take a look. Woo, that's looking good. In fact, that skin is plenty crispy as it is. So I'm just gonna wait till this hits its target temperature. Between bumping up the temperature and again being closer to the coals, I don't think we need any more charring than that by letting the flames come up and kiss that. That's nice and crispy. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's gonna be good. So let's let this finish and I'll meet you for the taste test. This is one pretty looking chicken. If it's half as good as it looks, we are going to be in good shape. I'll take you fast forward while I get the JoeTisserie spit out, cut some of our string, and get ready to slice it up for our taste test. Looks good. Let's dig in. Okay, it certainly looks the part. Let's dig in, see how we did. Cheers. Well, I'm a beef guy at heart, but if you told me I had to eat this for the rest of my life, that'd be okay. This JoeTisserie chicken always turns out a winner. So much flavor, so much moisture, and amazing skin. You just, again, get to crisp that up directly over the coals. It all comes together into an absolutely amazing package. I love it. I'm gonna get it in for the family so they can enjoy it just as much as I just did. Speaking of enjoy, if you enjoyed this video, please smash that thumbs up button and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend that might enjoy it. But that's it for today. I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue signing off, and remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.